So in a previous video, I spoke about, let me head over here. I spoke about the two different ways of handling deployment of my campaign. So solution one, which we have here, was to put all the power of deployment on our users. And the issue with solution one is that it introduces a big security hole. Solution two solves that security hole by putting the burden of security on me, people deploying the server and the overall application. The problem with solution two is that it makes me responsible for the cost of deploying campaigns, and I really don't want to have to pay for that. So the third solution is one, first of all, let me close this, we're not working with this application. So the third solution is one that I will implement, which takes the best of solution one and solutions two by combining them together. This time around, before I ever release my application into the wild, I'm going to deploy a second contract. I'm going to write a second contract and deploy it before I ever release my application into the wild. So this second contract that I'm going to make is going to be a manager which manages all the different instances of campaign that eventually gets deployed to the R.I.S.E network. This contract will be a factory of sorts. And let me show you this diagram. And so the factory, this factory of sorts, the purpose of this factory is to create new instances of our campaign. And because that's tough to wrap our head around, this whole concept, can a contract deploy another contract? The answer is yes. We can have one contract and have it deploy another. So I'm going to create a second contract inside my Remix editor. And the second contract will have one purpose, which is to create and deploy instances of the campaign. I'm going to write that contract and deploy it. And at some point in the future, when I release that product to the world, if a user clicks on the Create Campaign button, I'm going to tell that user's copy of Web3 and MetaMask to send a transaction to this campaign factory that I'm going to put together. Whenever one contract deploys another, the cost of deployment is on the user who sends the transaction. So in solution three, the deployment is being handled by the factory contract, but the actual payment for that is going to be on the user. So this is a hybrid approach where I'm in much greater control of the code being deployed. However, it is the user who has to pay for the deployment. So the user is going to pay for the cost, and the factory will deploy a new copy of the campaign. The campaign factory will also be used to store a list of all the different campaigns that have been deployed. So this is where we have one central location that gives me the canonical list of addresses of all the deployed campaigns. This is a great solution because not only is the campaign factory going to be in charge of the deployment, but it also manages all of the different instances that are there. So the diagram that I have here is not the best way of showing you what's going on. I'm referring to this one here. And so I've been showing you this diagram here that's a lot easier to understand what's going on. So on the right-hand side here, I have the R.I.S.E blockchain. That's what you've been seeing. And I'm going to write this campaign factory contract and deploy it myself to the R.I.S.E network or the R.I.S.E blockchain. So this will be a one-time deployment because I'm going to have one factory that is in charge of all the different campaigns. And here's a list of an example list of all the different campaigns. The factory contract will contain all the source code for an individual campaign. I'm referring to the campaign contract. So the factory has a canonical, clean, unspoiled version of the campaign source code. So there's no chance of anyone getting in there and modifying the contract in any way. In the future, a user may want to create a new campaign. The user will send the transaction to the factory, and that transaction will include some amount of money to pay for the deployment. So there is the gas cost factor. The factory will take that money and create a new instance of the campaign using the stored campaign source code, and then deploy a new campaign to the R.I.S.E blockchain, and it will be deployed with some brand new address. The factory will take that address, record it, and store it within the factory contract itself. So the factory always has a list of all the different campaigns that has been deployed. That means that at some point in the future, when my product, my crowdfunding platform, Once to get a list of all the different projects ever created, I can issue a simple query to the factory, and the factory will return a list of all the different addresses that it contains. The biggest challenge here is to understand how to write one contract that deploys another contract. These addresses are important to keep in the same location because eventually I want a list, and so I need one sacred location that says, here's the list of all the campaigns ever deployed. Okay, so in the subsequent video, I'm going to start working on that factory contract. See you then.